Hello, everyone. My name is Jongwon, and I'm a software engineer at PipLabs. Today, I'm going to talk to you about, feeding better IP to AI. In this age of AI, so many people are scraping data, getting public data from wherever. But we want to tell you how to make and build better IP platform for AI models so that they are more unique and more privacy oriented. So I'll go over story a little bit and then just some demo on how to build on story and some ideas on what to build on story, feeding better IP data to AI models. I'm sure you might have heard of story. We have these 3 different layers that we're focusing on, and today I'm going to talk mostly about our smart contracts, which is known as the proof of creativity. But we also have the underlying blockchain and the ecosystem apps on top, and we also have our own license framework, and those license frameworks are what really makes the IP programmable on our chain. I'll skip over this. This is how you connect to Story blockchain. We are an EVM compatible chain with the chain ID of 1514. I believe that's when the first printer was created. So it's sort of like the new way to distribute IP. That's why we picked that number. The RPC is storyrpc.io, and most importantly, the documentation is available at docs.story.foundation. We have 2 different explorers. We have the story scan, and we have the IP explorer. So the story scan is like Etherscan, but we use Block Scout. And for IP explorer, it's our own explorer made for IP related things like viewing the IP assets, which I'll talk about later, and also like checking which licenses an IP have and how you can create a derivative IP of a parent IP. So if you look here, this is our typical explorer, and I think this is probably the more interesting part. And there's different IP. Mahojin is one of our app ecosystem app, and this is basically like they're registering their AI output to story chain. That's pretty interesting, and it has like its own metadata. It has a commercial license. That means you can use this IP to create your own IP. So we call them derivative IP, and you can use it for commercial purposes. And you can see here, it says how much revenue you have to share, all these license terms, which I'll go over later. But you can specify this on your own using Solidity or TypeScript SDK or Python SDK that we provide. So this allows you to really define the license terms on chain and lets you allow other people to use your IP and pay you when they make money. So back to the slides. I'll just briefly go over the high-level concepts. So we have registries, modules, and license templates, license tokens, royalty tokens, and IP asset. One by one. First, IP asset. It's the first-class citizen in our system. It is made of IP NFT, which is just a ERC 721 NFT, like Bored Ape, and then the IP account, which is ERC 6551, another standard. And these 2 make up what we call an IP asset. So, for example, if you scan that, it will direct you to this IP called PP. And you can see here that PP is a derivative from EP. EP is our mascot that you saw on the first slide. So this PP derived this IP, parent IP EP, based on the non-commercial social remixing license term, which in human language basically means you can't use PP for commercial purposes because EP is also a non-commercial IP. So it has like its own license attached. It shows the creator and a bunch of metadata. Speaking of metadata, IP assets have metadata. They have 2 different metadatas. One is from the ERC 721, so that's the standard name, description, image URI, or just URI. And then IP metadata is our own unique metadata that we attach to IP asset. So this could be, for example, if you register an AI model as an IP on Story and you decide to create what's called a derivative IP, by generating outputs from the AI model, and you say this derivative IP, which is AI's output, is generated from the AI model. And in this example here, it's if you distill an AI model and you create a smaller AI model from a large AI model, you can say it's fine-tuned from the large AI model. So this is just a nice way for you to say all this IP relationship on chain, and it's more of informational, like the NFT metadata. It's an example here, just kind of similar looking. So this on the left is the normal NFT metadata, on the right is the IP metadata. And here we have some new fields like creators, which tells you who created it. Jacob Tucker is our DevRel. And the media type, the media URL, the image URL, and etc. So proof of creativity, we have the modules, which I'll skip over, but basically it's a way for you to sort of interact with the stories, royalty, license, dispute, and etc. We have the license token and royalty tokens. They're both, one of them is, license token is ERC 721. And when you create an IP, you can specify the license terms. For example, commercial or non-commercial usage. And you can start selling tokens to your license, and we call them license tokens. So basically, if I create an IP and I want you to create IP from my IP, for example, art, then I can sell you a license token, and that gives you a right to create a derivative IP on Story Protocol. And we have royalty tokens, which is just a more DeFi way of describing how much share of a royalty you have for an IP. Every IP has a royalty vault, and royalty vault have, I believe, 10K tokens. And if you have all the 10K tokens, that means you have 100% right to the royalty that goes to that vault. But if you have like 50%, you sell the 50% to other people, then other people have 50% right to your royalty for an IP. And when I say royalty, it could be like revenue that you generate off-chain and you pay it on-chain to prove that you've paid the IPs. And you have licensing. I'll go more in detail when I do an example, but one interesting thing that you could build on is the licensing hook. If you heard of Uniswap v4 hooks, it's pretty similar. Whenever you create a license token, so whenever you mint the ERC 721 license token, it calls the hook. And the hook can say something like token-gated hook. So if you want this IP to be only usable by people who hold a certain NFT, then you can put a token-gated hook, and that basically, you can put a condition that says, when you mint a license token, you need to have this NFT, and if you don't, it fails. Licensor approval hook, you can say which addresses are allowed to mint. So for example, if you're building a OpenSea clone or NFT marketplace, and you only want that NFT marketplace to mint license tokens for your IP, then you can say only this contract address is allowed using the hook. So it's a very extensible service that we have for minting licenses, because licenses at the end of the day is crucial to the whole derivative IP world. We have royalty. Won't go too much into this, but it just it's very complex how you design the royalty payments. For example, if you have child IP and then children IP, derivative IPs, then they have to pay up. It's all automated, so all you have to do is just pay your revenue to your vault. So if you make some money from an IP, from your derivative IP, you can just pay to say Vault 2, and then the Vault 1, or the IP asset 1 owner has some revenue claimed to that Vault 2, and that's all automated, so the owner can just claim it from your vault. So it's very simple. All you have to do is just pay your revenue on chain. And we have the license terms. It's pretty extensive. We've worked with some law firms to make sure that it covers most cases. We're also adding some AI stuff as well. But basically, you can say, does this license expire? So for example, if you want to make a derivative IP of my art, or if you want to get my art and put it in a movie, how long can you use that license for? So for example, if it's only valid for an year, and then you try to use it after a year, then the license expires, and you have to get a new one. And when you get a new license token, you have to pay the minting fee. When it's 0, that means it's free to mint. But when you say, it's like 100 IP token, then every time you mint it, you have to pay 100 IP to the owner of the IP. And then you can say how much of the revenue that you need to share. For example, commercial revenue share right here, that specifies. So I think it's in bips. So if you say 50 bips, then you have to pay 0.5% to the owner. And then like currency, what currency you have to pay your royalty in, and yeah, etc. So there's a lot of questions that these terms can answer, and it's all enforceable on chain. So all you have to do is just specify them, and yeah. If you see here, this is the actual license template. Let me just zoom in. Let's see. Verify, register. Let's see. Yeah, this is a whole contract just dedicated to enforcing the license terms. So yeah, this is the code, and there's different ways to interact with the POC protocol. We have the 3 different SDKs and the smart contracts. One example is music IP. So you can upload your music not directly on Story blockchain because that would cost a lot of data. So the traditional way is you upload your file to IPFS or even S3 if you want, AWS. And then you mint the link to the IPFS as the NFT on the metadata. And then you register the NFT as the IP asset. So we basically create the IP account, the ERC6551, through the IP asset registry. And you can see here, this is an example IP that Jacob Talker created, and it's just music. And yeah, he just has some descriptions here. You can play it, and you can even make a derivative out of it. We have what's called a portal, story.foundation. And this allows you to browse IP and register your own IP on Story. So if you're not, if you're not a full developer but you still want to register your IP, this is how you register IP without coding. I'll skip that one. The more interesting one, that I think it's more automatable, also more applicable to our real world, is AI models. So you could register AI model outputs as IP. For example, in this case, you generate an image with Stability AI API, and you upload that image to IPFS, register your image on Story as IP, and then attach license terms to your generated image. And then people who want to use that image could come to Story, mint a license token, and use it for their IP, create a derivative IP, use it in their movie or something. And when they make money, they can pay you the royalty share. So yeah, let's go over the code. This is more of documentation, so I just, let's see, wrote it here. Let's see if I can show the Vim. Yeah, I didn't set up the environment, but what this does, so you have this payload right here. Calling the AI API with the prompt and the output format, and you call the Stability AI with your prompt and the key right here. And if you want to, you can condense the image. And then what you do is you upload that image to IPFS, and you get the CID, and then you start filling out the metadata. So you have to fill out the IP metadata. If you see here, you can say the title, the creator. Usually you just specify yourself, the actual image URL, and the media URL, and you can also specify the NFT metadata. So you can attribute the output to a model if you want, and the prompt that you used to generate that image. So you have this AI output, and you just have to upload it on IPFS, and once you do that, you specify the actual license. So here, you say, if you want to use my image output for your own stuff, then you have to pay me 1 IP token. So you say that the default minting fee is 1 IP token. And when we say default minting fee, because using a hook, you could increase the minting fee. So let's say you have an interesting hook and it sort of like figure out the dynamic pricing of a license token because somehow you think this IP is more valuable at night than the day. Then you can say at night it costs more to mint my license token or mint license to my IP. And if you say is 0, then it's forever. Here we said commercial is true. That means you can use it for commercial purposes.